This video contains tips and tricks about the nRF Connect for Visual Studio Code extension. The command palette lets you run any command in Visual Studio Code, including its extensions. This is a really cool feature that basically allows you to do anything in Visual Studio Code without the need to use the mouse. Of course, this helps with productivity on the long run. To open the command palette, all we need to do is press Ctrl-Shift-B, or if you're using a Mac machine, press Command-Shift-B. From here, we can access basically any command in Visual Studio Code. So if I type color, this will bring us the preference color theme command. And from here, I can quickly select the theme that I like. Now let's just use this one for the sake of demonstration. And I could do the same thing by going to File, Preferences, and then from Preferences, I go to Color Theme, and I'm back to here. So clearly, you can see that the command palette can get you things done in a faster way. Let's see now the available commands in the nRF Connect extension. So again, open the command palette, Ctrl-Shift-B, type nRF Connect, and you will get a list of all the available commands in nRF Connect. Of course, you can do the same thing for the nRF terminal. So if you type nRF terminal, you will have the commands for the nRF terminal. Let's go back to the Connect. And we can see now we can do anything they've done through the GUI, through the palette. So let's do a build. Enter. And then, of course, it recognizes there are 3 configurations. So select the one that we want to run. Let's do the first one. We can see it actually built the system. Back to the command palette, type nRF Connect. You see there are even commands that are not available in the GUI. So there is this nice generate support information, which is really good if you found an issue with the extension or you're running into an issue and you want to contact our DevZone engineers to help you with. So it's a great idea to generate the support information so they can better help you, as they will know exactly which version you're using and all the information needed to better help you. Okay, back to the command palette to see what else we can do with it. nRF Connect. We can do something which is really cool, which is assigning shortcuts or key binding. So for example, we can have a shortcut for a new application. So instead of going to the welcome window, clicking here, and then clicking on the new application, we can simply assign it a shortcut. So click on this cogwheel next to the command. And let's assign it, for example, a binding, which can we remember? So I'll, for example, do Ctrl-Alt-N, hit Enter. Now, this command has been assigned this key binding or this shortcut. So anywhere from here, I can simply type Ctrl-Alt-N, and I can easily invoke the new application window. All of these tricks can really help you with your code productivity.
In addition to the command palette and the keyboard shortcuts, we have the command line interface, which can be accessed from here. Through this, we can invoke any command line utilities from nRF Connect SDK or Zephyr. So if you're used to things like West or nRF JProg, you can easily invoke them from here. And let's take an example to demonstrate this. So let's say I want to add another build configuration for this application. Of course, I can do that by clicking the icon here from the user interface, add build configuration. I can also do that from the command palette, Ctrl-Shift-B, and then type nRF Connect, and you can see I have add build configuration here, or I can use West directly. So let's move the current terminal to the root directory of this application. This can be done by right-clicking on the application and selecting Start a new terminal here. We can see we have a new terminal for this application, and let's invoke West. So West, build, and then we can specify a board. So let's target for example, the nRF 52840 DK, and the chip on that board is the nRF 52840. Okay, I need to also specify a directory, a build directory. So you can see here the build directory is called build for this board. Let's choose another name. Let's call it build1. Hit enter. And you can see we can easily mix command line interface commands with the user interface. You'll see in a second or so that we will have another build entry here. And we can easily choose between the active configuration by clicking on it. So now you can see we have a direct build configuration for the nRF 52840, and I can use the user interface icons from here easily. So with this, we have demonstrated that you can mix between the command line interface and the user interface GUI without any problem. You might run into situations where you want to change the nRF Connect SDK and toolchain version. To do that, of course, we need to first download that nRF Connect SDK version. And to do that, we need to open nRF Connect for desktop. Once you have that opened, you need to use the toolchain manager if you're on Windows or a Mac, or use the Getting Started Assistant if you're on a Linux machine. I'm using a Windows machine, so I'm going to open the toolchain manager. And from here, I can download the nRF Connect SDK version that I want. So you can see I already have the 1.61 and the 1.70. So this is how you can download the nRF Connect SDK version. And you can see we already have it installed as these buttons are shown. We don't have the install next to it. So once you have the install button here, it means it's not already installed on your machine. So this application that I have here is actually compiled against the nRF Connect SDK version 1.6.1. How do I know that? There are two ways, either by examining the build log. So we can see here that I have the 1.6.1 all over the place. So you can see there it's fetching the source code from the 1.6.1. Another way to find out which version of nRF Connect SDK and toolchain you're using is by opening the command palette, Ctrl-Shift-P, and then type nRF Connect, and then select Generate Support Information. And then here you can see I'm prompted with a lot of information, including the toolchain version and of course the SDK version. So you can see it's 1.6.1. Let's now demonstrate how we can change that, how we can change this, for example, from 1.6.1 to 1.7.0. Same strategy is by using the command palette. So open the command palette, Ctrl-Shift-P on a Windows machine, and then we have a command in nRF Connect called select nRF Connect SDK, and that will allow us to select the version that we want. So click on that. You'll be prompted with this message telling you that this setting will affect the whole workspace, and by workspace we mean the Visual Studio Code workspace that we already created. The one that I have here is called my apps_Nordic. Okay, so anything will affect the workspace, which contain both applications, and we can examine that by going to the Explorer window, and we can see that under the my apps_Nordic we have the two applications encapsulated under this workspace. So let's go back to finish the changing of the nRF Connect SDK and toolchain version. We said from the command palette, we need to invoke first the select nRF Connect SDK command, select yes, and then choose the version that you want. So I'm going to change it from 1.61 to 1.7. Okay, and that's not it. We need to do one more step, one more important step, which is also to change the toolchain. So select the other command, which is nRF Connect. Select nRF Connect SDK toolchain, enter. It will affect all the it will affect anything in this workspace. Select 1.7.0, and now it has been changed. And to confirm that, we will do two ways to confirm that. I'm going to do a pristine build, And let's examine the terminal and see. We see clearly that now we're fetching the source code from the 1.7.0. Okay, so clearly now we are building our application on a different version, on the changed version, which is the 1.7.0, not the 1.6.1. And you can see that the build is complete. Another way to confirm the version for the nRF Connect SDK and the toolchain set for the workspace we have here is to invoke the generate support information command from the command palette. So we can see now we have easily changed the used version of the SDK and toolchain. So now we can see it's set to 1.7.0.
Let's now talk a little bit about extension settings. Settings in general can be accessed from File, Preferences, Settings. This is one way to access settings. And a key thing to remember here, so I'm going to close this down for better visibility. A key thing to remember is that Visual Studio Code defines scopes for settings. So you can apply settings across all instances of Visual Studio Code through the user scope, or you can apply them to a specific workspace through the workspace scope. Let's demonstrate this. So I'm going to change the theme in this workspace. So I'm going to go to Workbench, Appearance, and I'm going to set this theme from the default one, which is dark plus, to the red one. Okay, so now the theme changed into red. And since I changed it in the workspace scope, this will only affect this workspace. To validate that, I'm going to close this workspace, and you can see Visual Studio Code will roll back to the default one. Okay, let's open back the workspace, and you can see red will be activated here. That demonstrates the scope of the settings that we have here. Okay, I'll set the theme back to the original one. Okay, now let's view the nRF Connect extension to experiment with its settings. So extension settings can be accessed from here, okay? And I'm going to use the workspace scope to only change these settings on this workspace. So go to nRF Connect, and we can see that we have several settings we can experiment with. One setting is the kconfig interface. So by default, we use the GUI config, which is a graphical interface. This is how it looks. We have another option for the kconfig interface, which is the menu config. The menu config is a cursor-based configuration. So now you can see clearly when I change this into menu config, this button changed into menu config. Okay, and we can try it out by clicking on it here, and you can see now it will open here. Okay, it's simply a cursor-based menu equivalent. Okay, let's close it and go back to the settings. You can reset settings by clicking to this cogwheel and click on Reset Settings. You can see when I'm going to click on it, it will bring it back to the original one. And you can also edit the settings using the JSON file directly. So all these settings are saved as JSON kind of like entities. You can copy them, or you can use this GUI to change them. With that, we have covered how we can access settings and the scopes of settings in Visual Studio Code.